Hi, welcome to the feedback loop. This is my opportunity to really respond to some of the comments left on the recent videos that we published on the channel in the past week or so. As always, we appreciate your support, your engagement, your feedback, and your contributions. So it's just nice to point out some of those comments. Not all, unfortunately, but again, it's just a little bit of fun for me to be able to get into them. We had 4 videos published on the channel in the past week, and part of the focus has been wrapping up the incomplete 4th season for the song story season. There's currently no plans for further installments at this time, so if you haven't already done so, please check out some of the 42 episodes that I've published on that series. So the first video, it was the Take Me song story. Last year, this one took a left turn when I was originally putting it together and basically became a A-B of 1996 versus 1977, and the You Wanted the Best versus the Rock and Roll Party in Tokyo version of the song. So it needed to be completed and wrapped up in a way that would make it more appropriate as a song story and meet the original intent of the series. So first up, a great comment from Rome Loves Dan. He says, this song has always held a special place in my heart. Whenever we could get to a local pizza Italian restaurant with its cool jukebox, I would be sure to let everyone know who my band was. This B-Sides of Calling Dr. Love got frequent multiple plays with my quarters. I really missed it on the Alive 2 album. Thank heaven for the Kiss My Axe and Kiss Takes Tokyo bootleg LPs that I acquired the next year in 1978. I hope the swagger-filled rocking sing song omission from Alive 2 gets rectified when hopefully we get a super deluxe version in 2027. So yeah, great point on potential super deluxe of Alive 2 and how to handle that treatment. That's a topic for a podcast. I think we may have touched on it a little bit. But yeah, those classic bootlegs. I think there's a recently circulating LA Forum bootleg, supposedly an upgraded source for that, which to me doesn't sound better than what was out a few years ago. But if it's new to you or sounds better versus what you have, or if you've never heard it, then it's a pretty cool audience recording. San Francisco. Classic Cow Palace Love Gun Tour show has it, as well as do obviously the Houston Summit, the 2 videos, and the 2 Fort Worths, one of which was featured in the video. So let's move on into some of the other comments. Peter Bach. Peter, thanks for commenting as always. Thanks for making me reappreciate this throwaway, as that is what I always considered it. Laughing emojis. Love the 1996 comparison to 1977. Please do that also one time for two-timer and let me know you wanted the best versus what we now have, the Dress to Kill and Alive box set versions. So yeah, those are some good suggestions for future dives. I think I did one previously, I think for Let Me Know, but that kind of jumped the gun. So now that we do have those recordings and a little bit more knowledge, again, when I write any of these, they're only a moment in time for what I think I know or what we have documented about something at that time. It's continuously changing. There's always new information coming out. It really is part of the joy of what I do and what I'm into in terms of the history, in that I'm always learning something new. I'm usually learning a new angle or getting some deeper information that just changes how I analyze all this stuff. And again, that's my area of fandom. So yeah, maybe I'll do some of those videos. Certainly, thanks for the kind comments, Peter. Max wrote his on the KissFAQ. So thanks, Max, again, for all your comments. Interesting choice of words of rock and roll over being the Newtonian response to Destroyer. I assume you mean that this as in going the opposite direction. Yeah, I should have been a little bit more clear. I was speaking about Newton's third law of motion, which basically states whenever one object exerts a force on a second object, the second object simultaneously exerts a force equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. So for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. I didn't want to go too far deep into Newtonian physics because, number one, I'm not smart enough. And number two, I would just be reading off a wiki page like I just did there. So Yeah, I didn't. Again, I don't want to go off on too much of a technical tangent, but I could have been a little bit more clear. That said, Newton's first and second laws probably apply to the destroyer sessions, so maybe these are Ezrin's laws of musical motion. Look up those laws if you're not familiar with what Newton's first and second laws are, and see how I might be correlating that to Bob Ezrin's role musically on the creation of Destroyer, Mark Anthony Kaye's favorite album. So Max continues, also with the drum comparison, I hear Ghost Notes in 1977, whereas none of that in 1996. Were they mixed out, or was it re-recorded with a simpler drum pattern? I don't know. I don't have the details of exactly how they dealt with the drums in 1996, whether they triggered, did other techno mumbo jumbo. But that was a glorious part of what Peter did in the 70s that some others have also kind of investigated. In The Art of Guitar, really cool guy, has also a drummer. Did a great investigation into how what he thought was an easy drum part by Peter Criss was much less so when he actually dove into how Peter was playing it. So there wasn't effects being used. It was Peter playing ghost notes. And again, to get a better explanation of what a ghost note is to a drummer, I'm not a musician. I would never call myself one, even though I dabble on guitar and I know chords, a few. Go to The Art of Guitar and find his Peter Criss drumming video to really get a good lesson that's intelligently communicated. All right, so thanks to everyone who left comments on the post. Very much appreciated. Let's go into the main video, which was, of course, the podcast episode. And this week it was Kissy Weeps, the greatest Kiss ballad. So for anyone who didn't get it, a little bit of an inside joke. When Ken and I walked into the first Kiss or first Gene Simmons vault in Los Angeles, Eric Singer was there. And later on, when he was up on stage, he saw me and counted, hey, and shouted, hey, it's Kissy Leaks. So Kissy Weeps, Kissy Leaks. So there you go, at least to try and explain it slightly. All right, so not surprisingly, there was a bit of a debate about what people feel is a ballad and what isn't. It's easier when doing these sorts of episodes for me to frame it in such a way that lets the folk decide what it becomes to them or what it means to them, because it becomes way too much work for me to define and impose an arbitrary framework. And I don't want to spend my time saying, well, that doesn't meet the narrow definition that I've done. And again, people's tastes vary. I think the key part of a ballad to me is a deep emotional meaning of the song. So that means to me and my taste that you can have quite a heavy song or a pop song that I consider to be a ballad because of its lyrical or subjective or subject matter. So Bernie 67, let's start with yours. Another great episode, gentlemen. Hard Luck Woman, See You Tonight, and A World Without Heroes for me. A good rule of thumb is every ballad is a love song, but not every love song is a ballad. That's a deep and meaningful comment, so one worthy of some thought, but I love the sentiment of that last sentence. All right, let's see what's up next. Rich J reminds us, be sure to watch 1,000,000 to 1 on Paul's Live to Win concert. So One Live Kiss was released in 2007 or 2008. It is long overdue a proper official universal double purple vinyl treatment. I would actually buy that. I would actually probably play it in hopes that the sound would be marvelous on a turntable. I can't believe we're so past due with that, or Live to Win officially being released on vinyl. I'm sick of seeing both as bootlegs, knowing that Paul, doing events like the Indie Expo or the Paul Stanley Weekend that he did, would have such a great place to be selling those signed. Oh, those will look beautiful. The purple, especially for the cover of One Live Kiss, will look so good. LP sized, signed by Paul Stanley, and who knows which other members of the touring group he could get to appear there, and then you could do your assembly line of getting them signed. So 1,000,000 to 1. That was definitely a high point for me when I went to see Paul at the Fillmore show. Again, every song on that set was a high point for me. But 1,000,000 to 1, beautiful ballad. So absolutely agree with that, Bernie. Thanks for the comment. All right, David LaPrade Jr. Thanks for your comment. Great episode. I would rank We Are One of Psycho Circus in the top 10. Now, that's an interesting one. And again, there's so many to choose from. I don't know if I consider that a ballad for my tastes, but it is actually a pretty cool song for the most part. I do wish it was a little bit more. I think it needed Bob Ezrin. Sorry, Mark. All right, moving on. 83, Marcelloa, or Marcello. We'll just go with that. I agree with Ken. Still Loving You destroys Still Love You, even though I think the lyrics off the latter are far better, but the former one. So I guess that is. I must have missed that while hosting the show. I'm going to guess it's Scorpions versus Kiss, and I know the Scorpion song. Absolutely fantastic Scorpion song, even though I generally don't like Scorpions after Tokyo Tapes. Maybe, what was it? Animal Magnetism is my cutoff point. But there we go. Yeah, but a really good one to point out in terms of some other great ballads. Melody, solo, song structure in general blows Kiss ballad. Fair enough. Again, it is a great ballad. There's a lot of really great ballads out there by other groups. Born Again 76. I never liked Every Time I Look at You. Sounds so forced and contrived. Paul forcing it on Unplugged was strange to me when it had failed completely as a single. Yeah, so it wasn't successful as a single, but look back to what was happening in 1992 musically anyway for a lot of the dinosaur bands. There really wasn't a chance for Paul. I'm glad personally that he gave it another chance. I really enjoy, I think I've got like 17 hours of Unplugged rehearsals, and just watching Paul was a man possessed about that song. Paul knew exactly that it was that opportunity, I guess, for it to be given a second chance. There have been plenty of opportunities where songs have been given second chances. Look, go straight back to Rock and Roll All Night. For both Aerosmith and Kiss, Walk This Way failed initially. They got a second chance. Dream On failed initially. It succeeded regionally, but got a second chance. So why not Every Time I Look at You? It's a gorgeous song for my tastes. And watching those videos, I really, really enjoy the passion and also the commitment to just dialing it up that extra notch to 11. You can almost hear Nigel. This one goes to 11. And Paul took that one to 11 that day. But if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. Where's Drago? No, that wasn't a question. Going Blind, absolutely was the first true Kiss ballad, and it's a Gene tune. It's wonderful, if a little weird. There was quite a bit of love for Going Blind. I was surprised. I never really thought about that. I don't think I really considered that in that way. There's a lot of songs, that Gene has written that see him going on the more sensitive side. And I think in some ways he may be a better traditional ballad writer than Paul. Paul is a powered ballad or a pop ballad writer. So Gene is more in the McCartney school in some senses. See You Tonight. Come on. It wasn't included from the solo album. I guess it could have gone into list, may have gone into list, actually probably got into Ken's list, didn't it? From the Unplugged album. So there we go. All right, crispiness on the FAQ. Let's see. I fall off from these podcasts for a few months and suddenly a topic like this appears. Definitely have to find time to catch up on this one. Yeah, well, we all fall off at the times from podcasts. We just keep putting them out there, hoping people want to hear what we talk about or chime in with their thoughts or violently disagree with us and tell us that we're wrong. Either way, anyway, there's no right or wrong way to consume them. I'm glad you're back, and this one interested you. I hope that you'll chime in on the FAQ with your comments about how you found it and what some of your favorites are. All right, let's see. Ken also dropped another Kiss Vinyl Minutes episode this week, this time on the You Wanted the Best album, and he did a little bit of a show and tell on that. So let's check some of those comments. JJ Zach's dad, I'm improving, or reading my notes is getting better. Nice job, Ken, as always. Never had this one on vinyl, but you're correct. The vocals sound ridiculous to anyone that knows the real deal. Sad because they just could have released what they had, which we now know is not entirely accurate. Independence Day. For, what was it, Two Timer? We thought that they were replacing vocals from Detroit, where it's from the rehearsal in Davenport with no vocals. And I guess I will do a long A/B video, as Peter requested, on some of those songs to show the source, to show potentially what was retained, and we'll have to see how good the AI stems are for that again, because it's only if they're able to get a good enough separation that it'd be worth doing. I don't want to be. I try to be very careful about how we use these tools. In other words, so slop is slop. Charles Bronson. Let's see. This album is half a fraud, fake live tracks, and an interview with Jay Leno. True and true. Can't debate that. Though I might say enhanced tracks. The interview with Jay Leno always bugged me. It was such a waste of space. It's like, why? And I don't understand that with the feedback that they must have heard for You Wanted the Best back in the day, when they did that first attempt at a Love Gun Deluxe in 2014 thereabout, that they put that Montreal interviews bit on as well. Boggles the mind. And what they did to those live tracks on that release as well just proved that no lessons are ever remembered. They may be learned, but they're never remembered. All right. Cool cover, though. It was cooler when it was first released on CD, when it came with a color jewel case that made the color cover pop a bit more. And yeah, I can't remember what was the color of the CD cover. I think was it yellow? Because the cassette had I think a red. I remember going down into Glasgow to get that when it came out, and I was actually pretty excited about it. I really couldn't tell that much of a difference. I didn't have enough of really a reference point to be able to tell the difference. You can really hear it on the vocals in Take Me when you hear Paul's singing style, completely different. But Paul's, just how he's doing his mechanics of singing were completely different in 1977 than they were in 1996. But I didn't recognize it at the time, so I liked it enough for what it was at the time. Hated the Leno interview. It was just a waste of space. Loved the Blockbuster bonus CD, or the Japanese version, which included the Eric Carr 1980 Sydney Showgrounds. What was it? Was it New York Groove? Might be. Can't remember. All right. You Wanted the Best. Wonder if we'll get an anniversary edition of that. It is, of course, the 30th anniversary. Graham Morbell. Graham Morbell. What happened to the photos listed on the hype sticker? I do not know. I wonder if they became the sticker in the Japanese version. All right, so the final video of the week was the Calling Dr. Love Song Stories video. And after I completed the I Was Made for Loving You one, I looked at this text and thought that too much work had been done not to finish it. So again, it was one that I'm wrapping up loose ends at the moment, trying to get things off my plate that I've left languishing for too long. Those song stories that have featured recently were things like that needed just for me to have peace of mind to know that I'd completed them and published them. So those are done and dusted. Season 4 is complete. That I'm working on the Magic Book, the Alive Worldwide 30th anniversary. Again, more library issues. Just cannot get anything now shared between libraries. I think primarily because of funding issues and all that. So I'm just trying to see how I can plug those gaps and get that thing out this year. But going back to the Calling Dr. Love Song Stories, a couple of great contemporaneous observations, which I love because, again, I wasn't a fan in 1976, 77. Rome Loves Dan again. Calling Dr. Love was all over the radio in my town, especially on the old 10Q station. I love the attention our band was getting. Fantastic. I mean, who wouldn't love it? And how many of us still kind of smile or geek out when we see Kiss on TV or something Kiss pops up in pop culture? People keep track of Kiss posters on walls in movies and all that. So Ghost Musicians Union had a couple of comments this week, but here's one that that bumper card off Romeo's Stand. Los Angeles, 1977. I was there, 10 years old. Went to the August the 27th, 1977 LA Forum show. Those were the days. 10Q was magic. Was a Magic AM station for 3 years. They played Kiss a lot. It was from Always Waiting to Hear Calling Dr. Love that exposed me to the top 40. By 1980, 10Q was gone. One day, suddenly broadcasting in Spanish. And I had moved on to FM rock radio, and Kiss was never part of that. So that's great context. I mean, that happens to a lot of radio stations in that period, that they just change. It's happened in recent years in the Bay Area here. There was one classic rock channel that basically, you didn't wake up the next day and they were playing country, but they telegraphed that they were changing formats when pop country was really taking off. And I have no idea if they're still doing that, because I just don't listen to much radio. So there we go. Here's another comment from Charles Bronson 42. It's a mystery to me why they didn't do this one instead of Love 'Em and Leave 'Em for the Don Kirshner rock concert videos that were shot. Yeah, never really thought about that. I wonder if anyone's actually ever asked Gene or anyone in the group, or whether they'd even remember why the songs that were selected for that performance were selected. I mean, I love 'Em and Leave 'Em. It's really fun as a video and a performance, but why? You would think that there would have been much better choices to be had. Number one, to represent Gene, and to represent Kiss's more kind of standard music. So there we go. Mysteries remain. All right, that's it. 4 videos in a week. There won't be 4 videos this week, that's for sure. Hope that you enjoy the content. We're continuing to try and just do Kiss fan stuff. That's the only mission of the KissFAQ channel, is just to fan thoughts. If I get a random thought and knock together a video during the week, then I do so. But I love having the opportunity just to read some of those comments and give my thoughts on them. Chime in with your thoughts on my thoughts or their thoughts. But whenever you do comment on videos or in the FAQ or wherever you consume this, Facebook even, your comments are read. Don't always have time to respond to them or even like them, but they are appreciated. All right, that's it. I'm out.